I'm going to give you the just very simply 2 data points, and just kind of hold these in your head. And I mean, this is this poll of 1,500 likely voters, 2016 voters. It's not 2016 yet, but people who will likely vote next year. It was conducted by GBA Strategies on behalf of the Progressive Change Institute. It's a solid, nonpartisan poll. And by 67%, Americans support letting the government negotiate drug prices. By 68%, Americans support letting students, college students, have the same interest rate as big banks, which is a 0.5% or less. By 62%, Americans want everybody in America to have free universal pre-kindergarten. By 64%, fair trade that protects workers, the environment, and jobs. And there was no more of these so-called free trade agreements. Let's go back to the way it used to work. By 59%, Americans want to end tax loopholes for corporations that ship jobs overseas. Now, each one of these, of course, are opposed by Republicans. Okay, 67% of Americans want the government to negotiate drug prices. Republicans oppose it. 68% of Americans want students to get a 0.5-point interest rate, the same as the big banks. Republicans oppose it. 62% of Americans want universal pre-K. Republicans oppose it. 64% of Americans want fair trade. Republicans oppose it. 59% of Americans want to end tax loopholes for corporations that ship jobs overseas. Republicans oppose it. 60% of Americans want to end gerrymandering. Republicans oppose it. 58% of Americans, or by a 58% majority, it's actually 72% of Americans, but it's by a 58% majority, believe that Medicare should be available to all Americans as an option, a public option. 55%, by a 55% majority, Americans, it's actually 71% of Americans say yes, but it's 55 points higher than the support than the opposition. By 55 points, Americans want to disclose corporate spending on politics and lobbying. By 54 points, Americans want to require the NSA to get a warrant every time they spy on any of us. Again, Republicans oppose this. It ain't going to happen. By 53%, Americans want a $400 billion a year infrastructure jobs program to modernize America and to create jobs. By 53%, Republicans oppose it. It's not going to happen. By 52%, Americans want debt-free college at all public universities. In other words, free college at all public universities. 52%. Republicans oppose it. It's not going to happen. 55%. Americans want to expand Social Security benefits. 53% want to expand Social Security benefits. And 52% want a full employment act. In other words, the government is the employer of last resort. Republicans oppose all these things. They're not going to happen. By a 50% majority, it's actually 70% of people say yes. It's 50% higher. The support is 50% higher than the opposition. They want to close offshore corporate tax loopholes. Again, 67% of Americans want to retrain coal miners and oil workers for clean energy jobs. 67% of Americans want to end tax deductions for Wall Street fines. Did you know this? When Wall Street gets fined for committing a crime, they get to deduct it from their taxes. 67% of Americans say, no, that's not right. Republicans, however, want to keep it that way, so it's going to stay that way. 66% of Americans want transparency in trade negotiations. It's not going to happen. The Republicans oppose it. 65% of Americans want to eliminate the Electoral College. No, Republicans are trying to figure out how to game it. 64% of Americans want a full minimum wage for tipped workers. Republicans oppose that. 63% of Americans want to do away with the carried interest tax loophole. Most Americans don't even know what this is, but 63% of Americans are opposed to it. What it is it allows banksters on Wall Street to take a paycheck at a maximum 15% income tax rate rather than a maximum 39%. They call their income carried interest. It's a loophole. It's just plain old simple a bankster loophole. 63% of Americans want free community college for everybody. Ain't going to happen. The Republicans are opposed to it. 62% of Americans, debt-free college. I just said that. 61% want shareholder approval for corporate political spending. Ain't going to happen. Republicans don't like it. 61% want a special prosecutor in all cases where police have killed someone. Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 61% of Americans are in favor of ensuring net neutrality. Well, so far, it's working. Tom Wheeler just said yes, but the Republicans have pledged to try to blow that up in the House and Senate. 59% of Americans say we should ban the revolving door for corporate executives in government. The Republicans don't like that, or they do like it, so that's not going to get. 59% of Americans say we should tax the rich at 50%, which is lower than the Reagan. When Reagan came in, the top tax rate was 74%. 59% of Americans say at least raise that tax up to 50% for the super rich. It ain't going to happen, though. The Republicans don't want it to happen. 59% think that we should have a minimum guaranteed income. Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 58% of Americans say we should break up the big banks. Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 57% of Americans say that we should have public funding of elections and every small donation should be matched by government money. 57%. Republicans don't like it. It's not going to happen. 56% of Americans believe that there should be a central site to pay or challenge all debt. The Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. I mean, the banksters don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 56% of Americans think we should have a public banking office in our post offices. Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 55% of Americans think there should be a financial transaction tax. Right? Let Wall Street pay for itself, for policing itself. Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 54% of Americans think we should tax millionaires and billionaires at a much higher rate than everybody else. Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 53% of Americans think we should have free, high-quality public child care. Republicans don't like it. It ain't going to happen. 51% of Americans think everybody should have Medicare. We should have a single-payer system. A majority of Americans. Republicans don't like it. Ain't going to happen.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
Are you getting this? These are all things that the majority of Americans want that will never happen because Republicans are in office.